We are about to be live. Hello, everyone. Thank y'all for joining the show tonight. I have Jeff Nadolny on the show tonight. Jeff is he's a podcaster. Oh, I guess I got my volume up on my phone. He's a podcaster and he's also a dog man eyewitness. But I'm going to let Jeff basically introduce himself to everyone who's not familiar. I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with his channel. He's just one of the great dogman channels that's out there. Jeff, how are you doing tonight?
Good yourself. I appreciate you having me on tonight. It's definitely something new. I normally do the interview, then get interviewed. So
Yeah, exactly. Well, I interviewed you before. I think it's been a couple years ago. You were one of my first interviews I did in the group, and I'm just YouTube. I said, let me get him on the show for YouTube also. So I definitely wanted to get you on the show and basically just kind of go over some things with you. But can you give everybody basically an introduction, tell everybody who you are, and then how you got started with your research
um,
into cryptids?
yeah, I have a YouTube channel and I have 3 audiobooks that I was blessed to have an opportunity to narrate. Met a lot of great people through this field. Um, I research a lot of attacks, narrate a lot of encounters, but my true passion is the attacks that just randomly occur. I had my own encounter in 1994 in upstate New York in the Adirondacks. That's what really got me started. And since that day, well, prior to that, I was into the paranormal and just strange stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But since that day of 94, the summer of, I was on a search for what I saw that evening with my friends. And yeah, it's just been a journey since, a learning journey since. So
What is your so for those people who want to look up your encounter on your channel, do you know the name of that? You remember the name of that particular video?
I don't, I can share it quick here if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great because some of them are really wanting to see it, and I was asked that in the group earlier too. They're wanting to know your encounter, but
Um,
yeah, if you share that, that'd be great.
yeah, so it was summer of 94 and there was 3 guys, 2 girls. My best friend, his girlfriend, my girlfriend, and our friend who drove us everywhere. Like he was older than us, and because I was 17, my other friend and was 17. He was 18, so we legally couldn't drive in New York, and after 9. Um, so we were just hanging out. There was a cul-de-sac or like a horseshoe cul-de-sac, and with houses being built. There was 2 before it going south that were already built. My friend's girlfriend lived in one of them. And we just knew it was like a quiet spot to pull off, hang out. Um, Nobody went there because, it was a cul-de-sac. It was, you drive by it, you just think houses are there. So there were like 6 skeletal houses on the back side of the tree line. So if you pull in off the main road, it's just a horseshoe and it goes around back to the main road. And woods, deep woods, um, like scrub pine, a lot of vines. Also, when they made the road there, they had cut down all of the trees, and they just pushed everything into the wood line, so it was really thick. Um, Beyond that is the Hudson River, probably mile and a half going going west. Yeah, would be the Hudson, and then mountains. So it's just really deep woods. Um, We're just
Mm-hmm.
hanging out, we're listening to music, um, and all of a sudden we hear these weird. It was the strangest sound I ever heard. It wasn't like a coyote. It was just a high pitched screech. A lot of people say like they compare the sound to a woman being killed. I guess that could be it, but it was. I envision a woman being killed a lot more, just grittier. But this was strange, and so for some reason the girls were like vampire, vampire, and we were just like, what the hell? My friend, the driver, is now in the car, and we can see them coming. There's like different eye heights, ranging from like 4 to 6, 7 feet in the air. You could clearly see there was definitely a height difference, and there were maybe four, so 8 sets of eyes, maybe even more. It was just so quick. It just, they were down one end and they were in front of us the next. Um, that's one of the things now that just boggles my brain is how they traveled through those woods so quickly, with all of the debris, all the uh, downed trees and thickets and stuff like that. So, anyway, I'm standing in front of the car, passenger side. My friend has is now in the car. Everyone's in the car, and my friend, who's Czechoslovakian, and he sounds just like Arnold Schwarzenegger, is like, "Jeff, get in the car." And so I jump in the car, and I was out of the car, not being brave. I was confused. I was like, what's going on? What is this? It was just because one minute we're having fun, the next minute all hell broke loose. We pull we pull out and we get onto we're pulling out of the cul-de-sac, and we're at the end of the road to go to the main road, and we are going to be turning left to go into town, which my town is not really a town. It is, but it isn't, because there's woods all around still. Um, so then this thing is standing on the corner of the woods. I'm on the passenger side, so I look over, and the driver, because I'm like looking for cars, to get the heck out of here. It's on the driver's side, closest to him, and it's standing there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember a tail. I remember seeing a muzzle. I remember looking at its legs. Um, they were the strangest legs I'd ever seen. The thing looked like it didn't belong on this planet. It wasn't your atypical, Van Housing dogman. It was
Mm-hmm.
something strange that just didn't belong. It was out of a horror movie, but not out of Van Housing. So we took off. That day forth, I went to every bookstore, any place I could find, and to find kind of some sort of information. Of course, 94, in the 90s, no one was talking about Dogman. I remember stumbling across a lot of Bigfoot books, a book called Cryptids
Yeah.
something. It's in my bookshelf. Still, I bought that book like 2 days after my encounter, and I still have it. It was just strange. Then I kind of forgot or didn't forget about it. I just tucked it away for a couple years. Um, then I started, obviously the internet came out and started to learn more about dogman and stuff like that. Always been interested in the paranormal. I love to, do paranormal research at haunted locations and stuff like that. I just have a passion for everything encompassing the strange, uh, and that's what got me into it. So
Well, I want to cover some things with. I know you cover a whole lot of unknown animal attacks. You were first, well, actually, I think you were the first person that really got this jumped off and started talking about this a couple years ago, like real heavy. And I know you stayed on it, doing extensive research into it, making calls and fact checking on these animal attacks. So, um, can you go over some of the cases? I don't know, like some of the what makes these cases. Why is there such an upsurge in this, and how do you differentiate? I guess I can go into those questions later, but can you go into some of the more strange, unknown canine attacks that let you know, or makes you feel like it's a dog man attack as
um,
opposed to any other animal?
there's stuff in the like when you read the articles. There's just certain things that pop out. Medical examiner, um, length of medical examiner stuff. The time, because in any other cases, they usually pop. There was an attack a couple days ago, popped. Medical examiner's thing was um, how the usually how the responding police department, whether it be county, state, or local, responds in the paper. There's just certain key elements that just really don't make sense. They almost go around the main questions. One of the cases that I can use right now is Christopher Whiteley, and he was attacked in Lipin, Texas. I don't remember the exact day. It was around Christmas time of
Mm-hmm.
2020, and uh, he had left his girlfriend's house to go to work. Um, Walked down this trail, and that was the last anyone saw him. When they found him, he had been um, attacked. Instantly, the sheriff's department jumped at uh, mountain lion attack. Now, there hadn't been any mountain lion attacks in that area. There hadn't been any mountain lion sightings in Lipin, Texas. There had been a couple elsewhere, but hundreds of miles difference. Um, the attack, the wounds didn't match up. A mountain lion, when they bite, they have a smaller pattern, a bite pattern. These were huge bites. The pattern was very different.
Oh,
Um, there's a strange mark, like right here, and it was the size of a nickel, and it was a hole. Um, then the sheriff's department brings in Texas Fish and Game. Texas Fish and Game comes out and says, this isn't a mountain lion attack. So what attacked him? They had hemmed and hawed with each other about it. There had been no definite answer. I had ended up calling the Lipin County Sheriff's Department, and I said, okay, well, uh, if this is, if you are saying it's a mountain lion attack and they are saying it's not a mountain lion attack, what could it be? Can you guys meet in the middle and share what this is? He's like, let me put you in touch with the investigator. And I had, recorded this and put it on my channel, and never got a call back. There's still no answer. And then about 3 months later, a woman was attacked in Colorado, um, and she had the same puncture wound in her neck chest region, the exact same mark. And I was like, wow, that's really weird. They blamed it on bear, but this woman was walking her two dogs, and there were three bear
Mm-hmm.
cubs and the bear. Why wouldn't the bears attack the dogs as well? The dogs ended up getting home. She was, you know, found torn apart, I think a quarter of a mile from her home. Um, Things didn't match up with the bear. We're not consistent of a bear attack, but the hole, that kind of puncture hole, um, and I almost wonder if it was like a thumb, like when whatever had an opposable thumb grabbed these people and just pushed down.
Yes.
Um, but that was just strange because I was like, these are two correlating um, wounds, two separate locations, thousands of miles apart. One's on one side of the continent and one's on the other, like a whole lot of land in between. In a bear to a mountain
Mm-hmm.
lion so those are just two that are random, and there's just strange inconsistencies that the news overlooks, and they just leave blanks, and that's what keys me in on things. Like I might be wrong, and I'll be the first to admit if I'm wrong, but I just, it's really strange, like with the Brenda Hamilton case. I've been looking into that
Yeah.
case since the day it happened. And I think like a month and a half ago, I made an upload about the petition. And
Was she the school teacher, Jeff? Was she the school teacher?
yeah, yeah. And, they still, that
Okay.
community is living in fear, and I have a subscriber that lives in that location, and the whole community's in fear. They want uh, real information from this entity called the government, and that's it. So
Mm-hmm. Well, what happened in her situation? Because wouldn't she get out and take a regular walk each morning, and then like the neighborhood dogs would sometimes walk with her? Is this the one where they found the nutria in the ditch
they found
with her
nutria,
like body? Like,
and
is this what they found?
yeah, those dogs were confiscated, quarantined, tested, no DNA. They weren't put down. Um, I think she was dead. Yeah, she was dead on arrival at the hospital. She did just a typical walk, a walk that she would normally do every day. And then one day something occurred that, no one really knows because no one was there. It's all speculation, but I try to make my speculation. I try to like really look at the truths and the facts. I think what happened was she was going for her walk, and whatever killed her
Mm-hmm.
was feasting on the nutria, startled the creature, probably came up from behind or whatever, and it turned
Mm-hmm.
and took her out. You know, and the community has every right to be really upset because they're not getting any answers. The forensic detectives are not giving any of these people what they want, and it's a community, so they should have this. They should have these answers. And they closed the
And it's
case. They
still
just
an open. Oh, it's closed. It's closed
yeah,
now.
yeah.
So did the in the end? Well, did they? So the dogs weren't put down. So in the end, what are they saying? Like, we don't know what killed
They
them.
don't know. It's
What was
still an
the?
unknown attack. It's still unknown, and that's what's strange. Is why did they
I
close the
remember
case? How do they close a case that's unsolved?
absolutely. Now you covered something I found interesting. I think I don't remember if it was last year, a couple years ago, but do you remember that the lady? It was somebody who found like this strange animal, and she ended up taking it to a vet. She didn't know what it was, and they were doing DNA
Yeah,
testing on it.
yeah. That
Yeah,
weird.
can you tell everybody about that, because that story was strange from beginning to end.
Yeah, it was. There was this like weird little. It was like a puppy, and if you looked at its paws, it had what appeared to be fingers. Um, and I
Hmm.
had actually ended up calling. I called the police and I called the veterinarian location, which I did post on my channel. Anytime I call, I put it on my channel. Um, so this person ended up finding this odd looking creature in their backyard. Somehow caught it, brought it to this nonprofit animal shelter. They didn't know what to do with it. They didn't have the means to do any DNA testing or any whatever. They ended up bringing it to another nonprofit that dealt in domestic and wildlife. It was like a little hospital. So they fed it, cleaned it up, whatever, and it still looked mangy. It was just this, it was so ugly. It was cute. Um, they put it in a
Kind of looked
cage.
like one of those cat.
Yeah, yeah, it was
No,
like Yoda, it was like ugly and cute. But they put it in this
it looked like one of
cage,
those hairless cats or something like that.
kinda, yeah. It looked like it had mange, but it didn't have mange.
Yeah.
It was a weird looking animal. But we don't know what these things look like throughout their lives. So um, put it in this put it in this crate, a cage, excuse me. Leave. Couple weeks go by, or couple nights go by. The dog or creatures in its cage. They come back, boop boop, couple days, and then one night they lock up. They come back the next morning, and inside of the building has been broken in. The whole interior of the building was destroyed. The cage the creature was in was ripped apart, and the creature is now gone. There was no way this little mangy 60-pound thing could have done it. It looked almost like a greyhound that had mange. It was very odd looking, but it had these strange four finger pod like things. Um, yeah, it was a
It was
cool.
very
That
strange.
was a cool case. And then I called
I can
because
picture.
hmm,
I'll tell you. I was just telling them, if y'all can picture the Mexican hairless dog or a Zolo eats quaintly, it kind of looked like that
and then I called
with
after.
that grayish black skin.
Yeah, it was it was a leathery skin. It looked. Like a bat skin. So then I call
Absolutely.
after this creature disappears, and they then say it was a coyote. It didn't resemble a coyote one iota. It was the most obscure looking creature I'd ever seen. And I'm sure you agree because you've seen pictures of it, and it was really funky.
Hmm. It was. I was waiting to hear those DNA test results, and when I heard it, I was like, "Oh wow!" No,
Coyote.
when you send it somewhere like that, they're not gonna. I really seriously doubt if it did come back as something else, they wouldn't have told it anyway. That's just my
Right.
thoughts on it,
Yeah, it was
because
strange.
it's a
And
lot of cases like that. There's. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was looking at one of the comments, and it was like it wasn't a gray skin. It was like a dark black. It was like this. It was literally like a bat. Like it just looked funky. Like it was just the creepiest, but it was cute too. It was there was like how could something so ugly be cute? Like I just wanted to see it and like touch it. Like what? But there was no way this creature ripped through its cage, then destroyed the hospital, and jumped out of window and then jumped back in to make it look like it broke in. You know what I mean? It was just
Absolutely.
really a terrifying event. That I mean, I know if I was working at that hospital, I wouldn't want to be there at night after that.
Well, but did they say that it was broken in from the outside, or
Broken
what?
in
Do
from
you
the
think? Because
outside.
in my mind, now I'm wondering, but that's the only animal that was missing and taken out of its cage. So that, I mean, it almost made me think of that time when you shared that story. It almost made me think, was this the
That's
mother
what I
and the
said. I
baby?
said I thought a mama, like located her baby and wanted it back. Um, that's the only thing that kind of made a little sense to me. So
Now, you can different cases. You covered the Corey Gotzi case, and you covered the Amber. The strangest one of all, I'm gonna say, is Corey Gotzi, and then the Amber Miller, Tony Arns cases on Jimtown Road. Um,
that case is crazy
what
because
is
the
that?
police.
Yeah.
Hmm, no, what were
No, I
you
was
gonna
gonna
ask
say,
something?
yeah. If you could talk about that.
The police
Well, I was
were
gonna
like,
say, what is? I think there's like a lag in time,
yeah,
y'all.
there's a little bit of lag, so I
Go
apologize.
ahead, Jeff.
That case is really weird because Charles Owensby was their prime suspect. Charles Dogman, no space Owensby, um, was the first person to contact when he found Tony Aaron's um, in his yard by his mailbox, and then some. I think there was like it was almost 2 months, but it was a little longer than 2 months. It was like 58 days. So it was April 1st to June 22nd or 28th, one of those two, um, when they found Amber Miller in not in the same exact spot, but 100 feet away. She's leaned up against a tree in the same vicinity. Um, this Charles Owensby guy lived there. He was the first one to call 911. Both were attacked in the same manner. Both had almost the same exact um, wounds and bite wounds. And like the police officer, when he saw Tony Aarons, said he looked partially devoured. He was found at midnight. At 9:30, he had made a text to somebody. So whatever did this to him, there was a 2-hour delay between that text and his body being found. um, which I mean doesn't seem like a long or seems like a long time, but it really isn't. I mean that's for all of that to occur to this poor man. That's a very short period of time. Um, then Amber Miller, same. She was still alive when she was found, and there were 3 dogs licking her wounds. The guy grabbed her. The dogs weren't violent towards her in any way. Um, they were like they were wagging their tail. They were in an interview he did. They were wagging their tails at him. They didn't match to because there's people that say cane corso. There was no cane corso there. There was never a cane corso in Owensby. Never owned a cane corso. He trained dogs at one time. That's what they used. Like they said, he was a dog trainer. He was not a dog trainer at that time. At some point in his life, he had been. But like in the
Mm-hmm.
South, in this poor backwood part of town, everyone has dogs. You know what I mean? Like so, and the dogs he had were scrappy. I
Absolutely.
mean, they weren't big dogs. So then they find Amber Miller. They make a whole deal about Charles Owensby. They focus on it almost to get our brains away from the two attacks. This man is, first I really they used the racial card. They pointed out that he was black and he had a criminal record, but his criminal record was like crap. It was he wasn't like the
Right. Drug
greatest guy.
charges and stuff like that.
My daughter, but he was not a heinous killer. I think it was like a spousal abuse, some petty one fight, a couple drug charges, just bullshit. Sorry, and they
Yeah.
they investigate his wife's or ex-wife's house, which was like a couple miles down the road. They find nothing at his property, but on him they find some weed, and they hem him up for I think like a quarter ounce of weed. He had $1,000 bond, which right there is nothing. It's like, and then they release him. They made a huge deal about the weed, and it was so crazy. They release him on $1,000 bond. Couple days go by, not much time. There's still a little bit of talk in the background about the case, but not a lot. Right then they started to talk about who Tony Aarons was and who Amber Miller was and their past. Like they're victims. Why are you bringing up their criminal past? It has no bearing on the case. Who cares what they did? And then at one point, the sheriff, he had made this comment with meth is a contributing factor in the death of Tony Aarons and Amber Miller. Why? They just take meth and blow up their, it was just, they were really taking the view or the sight off of the real case and bringing it elsewhere. So then Owensby is out one night and comes home and sees a bullet hole in his trailer, right where his bedroom is. Calls. Now he had been getting harassed by the county, by a bunch of people that worked for the county, not people like that lived around him or lived near him, but county workers. There was a hole in where his bedroom was in his trailer. He calls the police and says, "Hey, someone shot my home." The police come and they arrest him again because he made a false statement. Well, you think he'd know that if there was a bullet hole or not. This cop said, "Oh, I was at the house. There was no bullet hole. And we never found a brass." Well, anyone who has any knowledge of firearms, a revolver doesn't spit out brass. And if you're a shooter, you're going to pick your brass up, It was just stupid. Then he is released again. He misses court. This is in September. And from that point on, when he was released and when he missed court, and they picked him up again, there had been there's no news, any news coming out of it. And I called one day, I think it was like 6 months ago, maybe less. And I said, "Hey, where is Charles Owensby?" And they said he was released, but there's been any new news on that case, which is strange.
Strangle. Yeah, that is strange. And in the end, he didn't know time behind that either.
Yeah.
So it was just basically a diversion tactic.
The whole thing was just diversions. It was just and they really messed with him. They really made him out like he was just the biggest criminal. And I think right from and the sheriff was just a jerk anyway. He was on Facebook with a pink tutu and his stupid freaking. He just looked like a moron. He's no longer the sheriff anymore. Actually, one of the deputies that was handling the case is now in charge. But I think really when they saw Owensby and they realized what they were dealing with, they knew right off, because there's a homeless encampment right down the road. There's some train trestles down there, and I had a subscriber drive out there. He just drove out on his own on his motorcycle one night, and he ended up giving one of the homeless guys some money to talk to him. And the gist of that conversation was, get out of here. You want to be out of here before nightfall, because these things will come out of the woods and take you off your bike and you won't be seen again. It was just the case. Those people, Tony Aarons, Amber Miller, their names were dragged through the mud. Amber Miller's dad was a police officer. He had ended up dying. They were just treated. They were treated very badly, and it was disgusting. And then the whole what Charles Owensby was dragged through was, it was racial profiling, and I believe they quickly realized that he was not of means, and he was their scapegoat.
And people don't realize that Amber Miller, she didn't die. She didn't die right away. Wasn't she
No,
alive for about a week after that? And then they were saying she was
a couple
uncooperative.
days, not a week, but a couple days. And that's one of the other things. Thanks for reminding me. I forget about this every once in a while. She had been put into a induced coma. She had never regained consciousness, according to some articles. And then there's one article that randomly states that says like something, she had made some statement, nothing pertaining to anything like her attack, but it was just she had been able to make a quick statement and then she was back out of it. Well, she had septic shock. She was in septic shock, torn apart. Her friggin' arm was just hanging there. I couldn't imagine the pain that she was in. And it was just a disgusting case. It was clearly county and state government just being their worst. Nothing good came of that case. There's still no answer. There never probably ever will be.
Mm-hmm.
And even with the new sheriff being, they just wanted to forget about it. That's exactly what they don't want to talk about it. No community, if you own, if you're in charge of it, wants that kind of marks or tarnish on your shoulders or whatever. So yeah, it's sad. Yeah, but and that's all in the news.
So,
There's all of that is just right in the news. They're autopsy reports. You can get and look at them. I'd made a
I
couple
actually
phone
have
calls.
those.
Yeah, I'd made a couple phone calls, but all that is truth in there. They in the news they talk about prints, large canine prints in the dirt. There's like only one mention of that in one article, which is strange because you'd think you'd put it in a couple when they first came out. And then Tony Aarons was not talked about. His case was only talked about 2 articles that were like very small paragraphs, like very, a small little write-up, an excerpt, until Amber Miller was found. And then they were like, oh yeah, Tony Aarons, it was just
We got to explain it now.
it was a crap show, it was the local and state government at their best, you know.
Jeff, I'm gonna cut my is causing me to have allergy issues. Hold on, but I do have another big thing that I wanted to discuss too. But cutting that off if you want. One of the things is Victor discussing Victor. Is that off topic?
I haven't talked to him in a long time. He came back and then he's gone again. So I don't know. I know as much as everybody else it's on the channel to know. Said he's in New
I do
Jersey
have a
or
question.
in New Mexico, and that he's not like in charge of anything like he was. Um, I don't know. He's a friend of mine,
I'm
but I
gonna
have
be
much. Hmm?
I'm gonna be brief with that because I got something else major that you covered another case recently. I'm gonna cut this air off real fast, straight into that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back. So get my earbuds back in. I had to cut that air conditioner off. It was messing me up. All right, so Victor, he's like over the years, like you've had Victor wasn't the only agent who's reached out to you, and there's been other people too that have reached out to other podcasts and stuff as far as like coming from behind the scenes to tell different stories of attacks. Do you feel that there are a lot of these kill teams, cryptid kill teams that come in and take these creatures out?
I know. I know for a fact that in Colorado they had one, and the guy who lives in Meeker reached out to me a couple days ago, and we talked. He had reached out to me. Um, he's a rancher, and he goes on horseback rides to clear his head and stuff. Um, his daughter and son, his daughter is the oldest child. His son is still in high school, and Meeker's a small community, and it's set in the mountains. Like it's mountains surround this town, and it's very wealthy. Because ranch money, it's old ranch money. Their school looks like it's in the middle of nowhere. It's like in just nowhere, Colorado, and they've got like $1 million high school, and there's probably like 70 kids there, graduating class. But the guy goes on horseback rides to clear his mind, just get the lay of his land and stuff. He had been in this location, Rio Blanco, and he had heard some gunfire. Well, he was with his kids, and he said, hey, come back with me and stay behind me. Let's go check this out. Then daughter and him are coming up. They see this guy, couple guys in the back. The son had come up on the side of them. So there was like a gap between the daughter and the kid, the son. And what he saw, he said later on to his dad, it looked like the largest Siberian Husky German Shepherd thing I'd ever seen. The guy went there to say, hey, there's no hunting here. You cannot hunt here. So they had left. They were kind of threatened, get the hell out of here. He left, went home. This was before the cow attacks were happening. This was like a month, 2 months before the cow attack were happening, because they started to happen in like October of 2022. This was in like August. And shortly then on, all these cows were getting attacked. Of course, we're doing it. There are 5 wolves in Colorado. That's a common, knowledge. 400 miles away from Meeker, Colorado, and there was all these. They couldn't identify what was killing these cattle. There were bite marks. Then they came up with this bull crap, a disease. How is a disease cause bite marks? So they were just coming up with
Absolutely.
ideas out. It was just it was a really creepy story. And I'm talking to this guy as this is going on in the papers, in the news and stuff. I'm reading about it, and he's telling me as this is going on. His buddy in this other area, just on the other side of Meeker, has another ranch, and there's another kind of animal refuge called Jensen. He had heard some gunfire. Well, no, prior to that Jensen part, he had been their airport, Meeker Airport, is by the high school, by the school. Like it's a really weird. If you Google Map it, it's really strange. So they had seen black helicopters, small helicopters, not bigger than Apaches. Like they were baby birds, which are just small military. I think like the night stalkers use them. They're very agile, quick moving, awesome little helicopters that special forces use. Why would they be there? They're never there. They were never there, and they're there. So then this guy owns a ranch on the outskirts. His buddy, Carl's friend, he hears this crap go on, and all of a sudden a day later, he's these guys are ranchers. They know they have to shoot guns all the time. They're not, it's they know what guns sound like. There's a distinct sound between a rapid semi-automatic or a automatic. There's clearly a sound difference. He had heard automatic gunfire, rifle fire. So Carl and his friend that lives by this Jensen Park went in, and there was a strong smell of cordite gunpowder. There was, just a stink. He said a coppery stink. Some tissue was left, and he had ended up sending some of it to me, and we figured out a way, because people were like, you're gonna get it confiscated in the mail. I ended up getting a post office box in Vermont, and which is like 40 minutes from me. And ironically enough, it's where my post office box is where the famous 80s Bigfoot sighting was. And so I drove up, grabbed it, had 2 of my friends. My friend Andrew is a veterinarian, and he drove up in his car. We went to a rest stop, met each other there, cut pieces of it, and there was tissue. There was fat and flesh. It was not just follicle. It was follicle, but it was not just hair. I gave Drew some. My friend kept some, and I had some, and I have some hair here still. I brought some. It's really cold up in upstate New York right now, and on my way home, I just pulled off like at another rest stop. No bathroom or anything, just a pull off area, like a text spot, and went into the woods quick, marked an area, and put it in a double Ziploc bag and put it under a rock. So there was a piece where I know where that is. We got it tested, and it came back hyena, corcuta. But then there was a dominant unidentified gene, and like a month later, a girl named Lauren, who is friends with Andrew, who he knows through the veterinary field, came back and said it was Pachycorcutta, which is an extinct hyena. And we were just like, what the hell? And it doesn't look like any fur like I'd ever seen. It's a dominant gray black with hints of tan in it. It's a very coarse. It smells like shit. Like it really smells bad. My cat, I have a Maine Coon cat, and he is like always up my butt, and I'm opening it and I'm looking at it, and he was in the room, and I put it, I let him smell it, and he did that cat gag thing, like that. And I'm like, oh, buddy. And I sealed it back up. But it is the strangest. It's so strange because I know you guys probably can't see it, but it's like this gray with hints of black and tan at the tips, but it's predominantly gray.
Oh wow.
And it's coarse. It almost looks like fine porcupine quill. It's really weird. But yeah, I don't.
Well, Jeff,
And then he called me the other day and said, hey, this isn't over. The newspapers aren't talking about this, Jeff, but there was a guy who, ironically enough, February 13th was the day they closed the case. February 13th was an obituary that came out, and a hiker / outdoorsman, his obituary was there, and there's no cause of him passing away or anything. And it was just, so it's still going on, and it's a tragic case too.
I have a question about you, for you about you covered the border agent, that those border agents, whatever, but the dog men were actually, I guess, people were slaughtered, like mauled. I mean, they were ripped to shreds.
Women, children,
You
yeah,
just
it was
covered that.
graphic.
Can you just
What was your
briefly
question?
speak on that? Because I know you.
Yeah,
Well, in that situation, I just want you to basically tell people like what happened with that case real quick, and then I know you also did date on that, so just kind of go into that, and then I'll send them the link in the group or on the show
yeah, yeah,
too.
yeah. Um, One night I was just, I'm I'm a single dad, and my daughters are both homeschooled, so I'm always home. I'm either in my studio or I'm being a maid. And I was in my studio. I had recorded the following day's upload, and I get an email, and I look at my emails, and it says urgent in um, the heading. So I look at this and open it up, and it's from a gentleman who said he was a border patrol agent. So I said, well, who are you? Yada yada. I emailed him back. Can I see your badge? Can I see anything that you have? And that's another thing where people were questioning with like Victor. I had asked to see Victor's DD5s, and he had shown me those too. But anyway, back to this guy. I get his badge, I get this, I get that. He gives me his number, and I call him, and he tells me this horrific story of him and his two partners. They were of Mexican descent. They were in an area of Texas, Edinburgh. And I didn't share this on the channel a week prior to everything really coming out. And it was crazy when it did. I just said it's a location in southern Texas on the Gulf side. He said that these people were crossing the Rio Bravo, women, men, children, just families, and they were attacked really viciously. Um, they had been on a ridge, and they were where they were from their vantage point. They could see the creature and watch the people. When they saw the creature come, the people couldn't see the creature. The creature could see them. So these people were sitting ducks. Um, they watched this attack happen for a little bit, and not long. When a child was mauled, is when one of the agents took a shot. He had shot the creature in its shoulder, and it continued to attack. Uh, the agent that I spoke with, he said it was like it was in bloodlust. It was just he had never seen an animal or a human act like that. It was just complete rage. So it didn't do anything. So then the agent takes another shot and hits this creature in the hip, and he's shooting it with a 7 millimeter. It's not a Sally bullet, and it's a friggin' it's a stopper, you know. Um, it does stop at that point and drops to force and doesn't run quickly away. It hobbles, and they did not see it die, but it died. You know, there's no way that thing lived the way he described its attack. And he then tells me, you know, we were brought in, we were talked to, this, and that. And that's where the story ends for a couple of days. And I'm like, holy crap, that's like, this is outrageous. 3 days later, he contacts me and says, the guy who took the shot is dead. His wife called me and said, and I'm just shooting, I'm not sharing how he shared it. His wife had called him and said, did you guys work last night? Because they had worked together for years. You know, they were friends. They on top of being of Mexican descent, they, you know, didn't grow up together, but two of them went to not class, but an academy together. One had been in less time than the other two, so they were very familiar with each other. They were you know, buddies. And he said, we didn't work last night. He didn't drink. He was very straight and narrow. He had a single party drunk driving accident. And then 2 days later, I'm home, and I get an email with an obituary of the other agent, and he had died of a sudden heart attack. And I'm like, holy shit. Because it said Edinburgh, Texas. And if you look, like, this is 7-8 days after, there's no comparing, you know, there's no denying the core connection. It was just mind blowing. He left.
Because Jeff, because in that case, on that situation, when the powers that be, or when their higher ups came to talk to them after they reported the incident of everything that they saw, were they not threatened, or what were they told? Because he was just pissed off about the fact that they pretty much didn't care so much about the fact that the people were slaughtered. They were more upset about the fact that they killed that dog man.
You shouldn't have shot the creature. You should have just let what happened, and, you know, gone down and cleaned up after, was pretty much it. He hadn't even seen these people prior. It was, you know, it was disgusting. You know, I mean, if our government is using these things to do that stuff, you know, these are people, you know, regardless of what your view is politically. These are little kids, women, you know. It's a tragedy. There's no, you can't hear it and imagine something like that, and then imagine well, you can't imagine our government doing it because we have the shadiest government anyway. They lie to each other in the Senate and in Congress every day. But I'm a firm believer that they're using these things, and if they're willing to use them on a population that doesn't matter, where do we stand in that? I'm not a one percenter. I don't know if anybody else is, but I'm not. I know that I'm not, of any importance to these people. So, when is it our turn? That's scary because these things can be anywhere. I had one person, I would talk to somebody, and I just want to shout out, hey, Larry Hart is here. I love Larry. um, uh, I saw a bunch of my subs
Good
here
night.
too. I love y'all. There's Liz, Richard Cox. Anyway, this idiot was like, "Oh, I can't believe you believe in Dogman and Bigfoot and this and that." And I'm like, dude, you go hiking, right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, how many times have you seen a bear in the woods? And he's like, never. I've never seen a bear. And I'm like, so why do you not think you've never seen a dogman or a Bigfoot? These things are smarter than a bear. You know, why wouldn't you put the two and two together that they wouldn't, it's people are really, really strange if you think about it. Like I've only seen a bear like 2 or 3 times when they come out of the mountains here in the Adirondacks and climb up a telephone pole when they get scared, and it's usually a yearling or a smaller cub, but I know there's bears all around me when I'm in the woods. So if they're there and I can't see them,
Oh, absolutely.
where's the dogman? Where's the Bigfoot? We know how good they blend in. Obviously we have really crappy photos that are taken with potatoes, these people love to say, but there's a blending that they do. So, I mean, and that blending.
Absolutely. It's very strange. Now, just based on what this viewer, his comment, maybe demons can shapeshift into any cryptid. Do you think that that's a possibility? Do you think some of these creatures are something
I think
other than
anything's
flesh and
possible.
blood?
I think anything's possible. My own opinion is I used to be on that where these things are just flesh and blood. I hated talking about the biblical aspect of it. It was just from my childhood, anything pertaining to, you know, the biblical part I just neglected. Um, but now, the more I think and the more I opened my mind, because I wasn't closed minded, so to say. I thought, these things were clearly flesh and blood. But the more I grow as a researcher and learn from you guys, from anybody, other researchers, the audience, um, I become more accepting and willing to accept what different things could be. And I think a big possibility is they're demonic because, like, there's the cases where it's a bipedal black dog man, glowing red eyes. It drops to all fours, runs, and it's this whiff of smoke, you know? So, yeah.
Can you see that question, Jeff?
Yeah. Any info
Any
on
info on Dr. Nancy Shaw?
Nancy Shaw? The book, my book will be out when I can figure out how to write a book. I have a tablet of paper that I have. I just I don't have the time. I've written it, but I don't. It's not up to par, I guess. I've got to sit down with somebody that is in that field and that has the know-how, and I have to feel comfortable with that person to do it with. But hopefully soon, because and I just I don't even know how to do it. I've got it, but it's definitely needs it's a
Mm-hmm.
rough draft because I am the least. I'm not an English major at all. I don't like punctuation, and so
I think he's
20
frozen up,
years
y'all.
with. Can you hear me now? Hello.
Yep, you were frozen, but I
Okay.
can hear you now. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. So Nancy
Yeah,
Shaw
go ahead.
is another case with like Charles Owensby. Um, she's found on the side of the road. Her car's running. Her door's open. She's dead, and bite marks and this and that. 6, 7 months later, they've got this guy arrested that they're charging him with the crime of it. Yet he's not in jail. They don't talk about anything after the case. It's just another one of those sweep it under the rug real quick.
Mm-hmm.
They'll the worst one is the just I can never the whole Charles Owensby one is just really a mind blower because that case is huge. That case is for this community is a modern day
Mm-hmm.
LBL, but there's proof that it
It
existed.
is.
I believe that LBL happened, but there's so much speculation and BS around that story that you can't figure out which is which. And but this
Mm-hmm.
is a savage attack, just as savage, with the information right in our hands. And then this
It's
poor man is just scapegoated. He is really, I mean, if he had friends that had money and a little bit of know-how, he'd probably sue Cott County for defamation of character, you know.
yes.
But
Now I heard that he not the original 911 caller
he was. He
reporting
was
this
the one that
kid.
called for Tony Aaron's. Yeah, I stated that. Yeah, and that's why it was like, why would you? How would you think that? It was by his mailbox. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it makes no sense. And then there's just a lot of that case is just it's a shit show. And lack of a better word, there's no other words to describe it. It is a huge letdown um, by the police,
Mm-hmm.
by the government, whether it be local, federal, state, and how are we supposed to believe and have faith in these people that are, supposed to run our country or run our town when you can't even give us a straight answer about something?
Were you ever able to find out? Do you think this is a post that came out of West Virginia that um, high looking dogman, that huge body, or was that did that come out to be a hunt out of Africa?
That was a straight up hunt out of Africa. Yeah. I had a subscriber, a woman that had seen, there's been a lot of people that have seen those hyena like things. But then, that's another thing that I hate is these videos that, are fake and photos that are just posted and that really, really steer people in this field to a wrong, way. You see that and you
Mm-hmm.
see he's American. and then there's like this was taken in this area of West Virginia, and it's automatically believed. I fell for it, but when I realized that it wasn't, I made a video and said I was wrong.
You
But
did.
I had a subscriber who had an experience just like, um, there are hyena-like creatures that are spotted all over our country, Canada. I mean,
That's exactly. Yep. Well,
so
that's exactly what I was going to say because there are dogman sightings here in the United States that have been reported that some of them do look like a hyena type.
yeah,
And their
and I
body
think
structure
those,
too, because you hear about that loping run that they do. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
those would be flesh and blood. For me,
Yeah.
I think more or less they would be flesh and blood. What I saw the night in '94, if it was flesh and blood, it came from a portal because there is no reason for something that hideous to walk this planet. It just didn't look like anything. It looked like nothing, that things look alike, whether they're long distance apart. Like, Gigantopithecus looks like a smaller monkey. You can see the comparisons and the
Mm-hmm.
similarities. Um, but this was clearly not, it did not look like a hyena. It didn't look like a wolf. It was the only thing that made it look like a wolf or a canine was a snout, and it wasn't long. It was maybe 4 or 5 inches long, and it was wide. It was very wide.
Yeah. Would you compare it more to like I guess more of like a short snout, maybe like a pit bull Rottweiler type, as opposed to like the German Shepherd type? Or would you say this
Maybe
had something more like
like
a
an Akita,
bat type face?
like an Akita, more or less.
Hmm.
Its snout was longer than a bat would be in comparison, like in scale structure. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
if you took a bat's head and blew it to that size of what this was, it was still a little bigger, but not. It was. It wasn't long. It wasn't pointed. It was wide. You know, an alligator,
Hmm.
I guess, crocodile. It was just, but it was closed. It wasn't open. It was closed, and it was just there, and it was.
Yeah, I
I'm
was going
bad
to ask you
to
too.
think about it.
Why do you think, and I remember you saying this on one of your shows, I think you said this last year, but you said that 2023 was going to see an upsurge in these unknown canine attacks. Why do you think that is? And why is there an upsurge period of this happening? What are your thoughts on that?
Um, because 2021 beat 2022, or 2021 beat 2020, 2022 beat 2021 for attacks. And I think this year it's already, you've got Meeker that continued on into 2023. You've got this case, um, and it's just starting. Like we're not even out of the cold months yet.
Hmm.
I'd say, you know, I hope it's not, but to me it feels like every year is more. There's more sightings and they're more aggressive.
Absolutely. I just find it strange the fact when you look at it, the fact that a lot of the times they're not even eating people. So I guess in the case of Amber Miller, and she was attacked, but I don't.
Yeah, they
Well,
weren't.
no, she had 45% of her flesh missing, and he was what? Tony Arns, wasn't
It
he
was
partially
gutted.
eaten?
Yeah, it was gutted, but I mean, maybe it was just a frenzy. Like just smash. Like, but I mean, if that
It's just
creature
it's
really wanted, yeah, it was an attack. But if it really wanted to eat them, it wouldn't leave them where it was. It would run into the woods. You know, there's woods right across the street. There's woods down the road. Like, I
mm-hmm,
don't live in the South, but I took a Google Earth walk down Jimtown Road. It's it's not a populace. There's a bunch of abandoned houses on that road. There's nothing there. I mean, it could have easily
mm-hmm,
grabbed both of these people and just ran into the woods with them. I think
mm-hmm,
maybe it did get a couple of bites, but maybe it was because it lost energy. I don't know, but it was there was yeah. I mean, with in the Mexico, Texas, Mexico, it was more of a devour or a smash and grab, lack of a better words on that. Bite, kill, bite, kill, bite, kill. Maybe there was stuff swallowed, but
and
yeah,
but Jeff, and I know you said that you had to go, so I do want to say this, and that one more thing I found strange about these cases also is the fact that why is it that nobody, and especially when it's in a residential area in a neighborhood, nobody seems to ever hear no or anything like that. So it's like maybe these things go straight from the throat, or why is that? I mean, it's strange.
yeah, it's. I honestly, I
We
think
can't
they're
make
just
sense of this.
yeah, they're just killers. They're straight killers that are just they have no they don't have any kind of any prejudice. They just kill at will. I just Richard Cox is wrong with his bite force, though. A bull mastiff only has the bite force of 400.
Oh, and these things are able to eat straight through bone. Now, have they ever said anything about like things that they say? Well, it's an unknown. When they say unknown canine, this is one of the questions I've asked before. If it's dog DNA, coyote DNA, wolf DNA, can if you take that DNA to your local vet or lab or something like that, can they differentiate and say, well, this is from a well, this is
They can obviously, like with
what,
that
Jeff?
doggy DNA tests, they can figure out what this dog was and what that dog was. Um, like when you bring your dog to Petco, you pay $80 for a test, and they can tell you if your dog's German Shepherd, Beagle, and this and that. I know for a fact they can tell you what they just don't want to. Um, and it's another lead people astray, you know, and that's what they're good at.
I agree with you. Unknown canine. That's basically like we don't want to tell you because now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, they Jeff just made a good point. They can tell you specifically your dog is part German Shepherd, part Golden Retriever. They can specifically tell you down to what breed. So they can also tell you well
$80.
part. So yeah, huh?
Yeah, for $80 they can do it. So if our government, you know what I mean, like they can do it if Petco can do it, why can't our government? They can. It's a farce. It's just another lie for them to hide the truth and just and there's really no reason to keep it quiet. There's no reason to. They need to just yes, but a hyena is not a canine.
It's not.
No, I think
Oh,
their bite
I,
force is like
I don't know if I knew
2,300.
that or not.
Yeah, 2,300 is I think a hyena. No, a hyena is more or less related to a feline.
Let me see. Let's see. Are you this normal investigation said they attacked the throat. In most cases, the throat area is missing or the head is removed. That was in response to my question about why a lot of times are people never heard screaming or making any noise. Have you heard of any cases of that, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me see if I got any more questions. Hey Barton, thank you for showing up tonight. Anybody else got any questions before we shut it down? Jeff, did you have anything else that you wanted to share with any about any of this stuff that we've been talking about tonight?
Just have everyone needs to be safe and be vigilant when you're in the woods. You know, like I said, when you're in the woods, we know that bear are there. We know that deer are there. How often do we see bear and deer when we're in the woods? Not often. These things are there. They're there watching us. They know when we're there. We're in their home. Um, you know, it's and that's true exactly, Holly. Um, and when they howl, you can hear the difference a lot of times. Um, but everyone needs to be safe when they're in the woods and not, even if you don't believe in these things, there's still things in the woods that'll kill you. You don't have to just not,
Mm-hmm.
um, and people need to be accepting of other views, you know, just because someone may think that they are biblical and they will stand by that. But why not be more accepting of, hey, I could be wrong or not even wrong. There may be another side. If these things are coming out of portals, then at that point, I think the biblical thing may be thrown out of the window. You know what I mean? Because who's to say the Bible exists in another portal? You know what I mean? It's just like we don't know what these things
Mm-hmm.
are. So no one's right until we have one of these things on a slab and they are in a scientific um, theater where they are trusted and they can be trusted. Um, then the Nephilim, that theory is right. Flesh and blood is right. They're all right until they can. It's a science based on theory, you know, and that's what the greatest part about this is it's a science based on theory.
Well, I agree with you. Now, in some cases, I feel like maybe there are ones that are really flesh and blood, but I think that there's some that are Nephilim too, because I feel like the whole mind speak, the whole aspect of them being able to, or like I like to call it the predator effect, stuff like
Mhm.
that. The fact that they're able to rationalize and like stalk you in the woods, but then you stop, they stop. They have the fact they're able to open car doors, common people, weird stuff like that, and then you have these weird dreams. The whole thing with Bigfoot and the infrasound, and it's just so many different things natural animals don't do. So for me, I always have had a problem with that whole blood only theory.
Yeah,
The fact they're able to blend in so well with their surroundings, that's just always been really strange to me.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just, but
Um,
animals can do weird things as well. So I mean, we really don't know. It's like it's a mystery, and I don't think we'll ever know.
I agree with you. Um, I'm trying to think. Is this is my last question? What about portals? Do you believe that these things can be interdimensional, or have you heard any stories of people talking about them having come out of portals?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there,
What do you
that's a
think
huge
about it?
it's 100% possible. I've never seen one myself, but I can't debate that with somebody if I've never seen it. Anything is possible. we're talking about a bipedal dog, a 9-foot bipedal dog. And so anything is possible at that point. I know what I saw. The only thing I know 100% sure is what I saw in the night of 94. I know that you said you had a sighting, and I take your word for it, because I saw what I saw. So who am I to debate what you saw?
Absolutely.
And nor do I have the right to judge your views or your theories, and nor anyone, because I wasn't there,
Absolutely. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. It was a pleasure having you here. We got a lot of good information from you tonight. I'm to come back to the show anytime. And with that, y'all, Jeff, thank you for coming on. And everybody, y'all have a good night.
You as well. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.